So in my video about the occult crescent, I complained about some things like instancing and the 1 hour wait, and lo and behold, Square actually did an emergency hotfix to make instancing in not completely miserable. A month later for some reason, but still, progress is progress. Did my video influence their choice to fix the system? Absolutely not, but that won't stop me from blog posting here about my random thoughts. A lot of people think the game's in a not great state right now, and with the announcement that there's no high-end content coming for a year, a lot of people are unsubbing. But don't fret, I've graciously spent 10 minutes coming up with random ideas of dubious quality that I think should be implemented so the game can be saved. Think of it as my wish list. If you think I'm missing anything or I'm wrong, you should write a passionate comment with your thoughts to boost my engagement. Thank you in advance. Anyways, these ideas are grouped up by controversy, so starting with the cold takes. First is make piety good. Healers and tanks both have a meme stat that are supposed to help with prog, but are essentially not great, but the tank stat tenacity actually got buffed so that it's not completely worthless on BIS gear sets. Piety, however, in the current game design is essentially useless, providing no offensive damage and even dubious for defensive purposes. The way to make piety good would be to either increase the damage of raid encounters so that min piety is no longer viable, but that would require players to get good at the game, which will never happen. So the more realistic approach is to just give piety a damage stat. It doesn't have to be as good as crit, but just enough so that tome or raid gear pieces with piety aren't worse than normal raid gear. Not a crazy ask, especially considering that tenacity got the same treatment. Next take is make Orchestrion in the game. If you don't know what it is, it's a plugin that shows what the song that is currently playing is. And I don't know, it's not a crazy change, but it should still be there. It's basically free advertising on their part. And I'll save a couple of Google searches when I'm trying to figure out what that catchy song is. And songs in this game are pretty good. Third take. Make jobs unique again. Now this is a big change at the core design philosophy of the game, but it's also a cold take because a lot of people are asking for it. Over the years, jobs have become more and more homogenized in a way that it pretty much doesn't even matter what you pick anymore. An example that I can bring up is in Shadowbringers, White Mage got their final level 80 ability Temperance, which is almost kit defining. It provides mit for a long period of time and boosts your healing. Astro got Neutral Sect when, if combined with the Aspected Helios, provides shields and a regen. However, in Dawn Trail, for their capstone level 100 ability, something that's supposed to be really cool and job defining, they made White Mage's Temperance give a shield and a regen, and Astro's Neutral Sect give mitigation. They basically turned the two jobs' signature ability from Shadowbringers into each other for Dawn Trail. From a balance standpoint, I guess it makes sense, but it's just so boring. There's no job identity in that case. Doesn't matter what you pick because they both have the same 2-minute button that does the same thing at this point. It's really lazy and uninspiring game design, so I'd like to see more uniqueness in the future. Next take is 2 ults and expansion minimum. I know people that don't raid are going to be upset with this take, but peak difficulty content is, in my opinion, important for the health and longevity of a game. Other people aren't going to hear about Final Fantasy XIV from dungeons or roulettes. You are going to hear about feats of accomplishment such as hardcore teams clearing ultimates, and that will garner interest from other circles. Ultimate Raiders also are, in my biased opinion, the most passionate about the game, pushing the game to its limits with opti and min-maxing, and understanding the game's systems to its deepest. And isolating that passionate group of players with having no content for them is not a good look. I just think 2 ultimates per expansion, which is less than 1 ultimate a year, shouldn't be that crazy of an ask. Finally, for the last cold take, have 3 jobs for an expansion, or at the very least have 1 support job per expansion. Before Dawn Trail, there's already more DPS jobs than support jobs, and with 2 more DPS jobs in Dawn Trail, the balance is even more skewed, which doesn't really make sense since all raid content in the game, I guess besides Alliance raids, has an equal balance of DPS and supports. At the current rate, if you're a shield healer, you can only pick between Sage and Scholar for the next 9 years or something. Now that's a way to get players bored with your game. I also think supports have the most interesting design philosophy since they provide utility instead of just damage. But yeah, come on. 3 jobs in expansion, have 1 or 2 of them be supports, and people will be happy. Going into my medium takes now. 1, make gearing easier. It currently takes like 8 weeks of re-clears just to get one guaranteed Savage Weapon drop? Okay, that's sort of fine, I guess, except it takes another 8 weeks to get your second weapon. Yeah, I get they're trying to milk sub money by keeping people paying just to do re-clears, but gearing should at least start getting easier after your first BIS set. $4 for a twine, even at week 20 of the tier, when you need so many twines just to complete BIS sets, is just silly. I don't know, there's a lot of ways you could fix this, like making book purchases be discounted after your first purchase, or have some sort of swap functionality in the game, but the current gearing system is honestly just pretty lame. Next take is a fishing tackle box. You may not know, but I'm a pretty hardcore fisher, getting the second logged Endwalker fishing title in the game. And a fishing tackle box, even though it wouldn't help me anymore since I finished the fishing log, it'll make the process a lot more welcoming to any other aspiring fishers. For the month or so that I was hardcore fishing, my inventory was literally full of fishing bait and lures, and it was a mess. Although I will say, that moment when you can delete a bait from your inventory because you no longer need it anymore is one of the best feelings you can get in the game. The next take is add simple tweaks into the game. Not everything, but there's just so many quality of life features from Simple Tweaks, which is a plugin that has a long list of quality of life features that you can do, that you can add to your game. A lot of them just make sense. They're mostly very minor, saving a couple of clicks here and there, but they all add up. Okay, next medium take, third ultimate per expansion. I know I previously said 2 ultimates per expansion, but that was minimum. I think a third ultimate would be really nice. I know it's never going to happen, but this is a wish list after all. If you think I'm gigacoping, then how about this? Instead of a third ultimate, make an Unreal ultimate. Like, Unreal UCOB at this point will never happen, but it would be sick. I've done a bit of UCOB in my past, but one of the main downsides is, admittedly, being level 70 is really unfun, especially since practically every job was reworked since Stormblood level 70, back when training points were still a thing. And a lot of jobs are just functionally broken at level 70, and not in a good way. It can't be that hard to make a fight unreal, so change the damage numbers and the HP a bit, and you've got a fresh experience for, in my opinion, one of the best fights in the game that people can now do with current job design. A lot of people don't do ultimates, but this would be a great way to get more interest to it. And finally, the hot takes. First would be actually putting money into development of the game. A lot of these ideas will simply never happen because there's just apparently not enough support and funding for the game, which is sad to see as someone that pays money to the game. I'd like to see some of that money actually be used for making the product better and not just funneling it into some NFT grift that fails on launch. I know I'm preaching to the choir, but yeah. Next hot take would be to make no clippy legal. If you don't know what it is, this is a plugin that essentially fixes your ping. Because if you're not aware, ping actually impacts your ability to weave buttons in the game, which is an intended feature, but still not good design. Someone shouldn't be at a disadvantage at playing the game just because they live farther from the servers, which is a real issue when you're talking about the NA server where people live from Canada to South America. A lot of this is just bad Japanese game design because ping isn't an issue as much in Japan, but if a plugin can essentially make things fair by making ping less of a hindrance, then I don't see why a system that makes things fair shouldn't be added to the game. Now, I'm not a game dev or anything, so there could be a reason why they don't do this, but it makes sense to me. Next hot take, add a Y'shtola dating sim. Would this be a complete insult to the lore and canon of the game? Absolutely, but it would be funny, and that's what matters. Finally, last take is turn chocobo racing into a racing sim roguelite. No one really does chocobo racing anymore. There's not even like a small niche community for it, but making it into a mini game where you have to train your chocobos to win the URA finals would be kind of peak. Anyways, expect some Uma Musume content in the near future, since it's not like there's any raids for me to talk about. Yeah.